The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian shares are mixed on Wednesday as investors ponder the prospect of U.S. interest rate cuts and the scramble for trade deals ahead of President Donald Trump's July 9 deadline for tariffs. Trump recently made clear that he does not want to extend the deadline for countries to negotiate trade deals. He doubts that an agreement will be reached with Japan, even though he expects a deal with India.
No, I'm not thinking about the pause. I'll be writing letters to a lot of countries, and I think you're just starting to understand the process. We've dealt with Japan. I'm not sure if we're going to make a deal. I doubt it with Japan. They're very doubtful. You have to understand they're very spoiled. I love Japan. I really like the new prime minister. Abe was one of my closest friends. As you know, the new prime minister is great. He's a very strong guy. But they and others are so spoiled from having ripped us off for 30, 40 years that it's really hard for them to make a deal.
Japan's Nikkei 225 and South Korea's Kospi are in the red, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng, China's Shanghai Composite, Singapore's Straits Times, and Australia's ASX 200 are in the green. In the currency markets, the US dollar is flat against the Hong Kong dollar, Singapore dollar, and Thai baht, but appreciates against the Japanese yen and South Korean won. The Australian dollar, meanwhile, depreciates against the greenback. In commodities and crypto, gold prices rise by less than 1/10%, while markets are mixed, with both West Texas Intermediate crude and Brent crude flat. However, Dubai crude falls by nearly 2%. In the cryptocurrency space, both Bitcoin and Ethereum are up by more than 1%. Tense voting at the U.S. Senate for Donald Trump's so-called One Big Beautiful Bill. With a vote at a stalemate, Vice President J.D. Vance cast the tie-breaking vote to narrowly approve the controversial spending bill 51-50. 3 Republicans joined Democrats in opposing the measure, which now heads to the House of Representatives for final approval.
With this legislation, we're fulfilling the mandate we were entrusted with last November and setting our country and the American people up to be safer, stronger, and more prosperous. I look forward to the House taking up and passing this historic legislation and getting it to the President's desk.
Senate Republicans betrayed the American people and covered this chamber in shame. In one fell swoop, Republicans passed the biggest tax breaks for billionaires ever seen, paid for by ripping health care away from millions of Americans, taking food out of the mouth of hungry kids. This is not a big, beautiful bill at all. That is why I moved on the floor to strike the title. It is now called The Act, but it is really a big, ugly betrayal.
Trump has said he wants to sign the bill into law by July 4, Independence Day.
Well, I just heard that about the Senate, and the bill just passed, and it tells you there's something for everyone. I mean, it's a great bill. There is something for everyone, and I think it's going to go very nicely in the House. Actually, I think it will be easier in the House than it was in the Senate.
Trump's spending bill was the cause of his bitter breakup with the world's richest man, Elon Musk, as their public spat reignites. Trump says he's now considering deporting the tech billionaire. Musk, a South African national and a naturalized U.S. citizen, has repeatedly slammed Trump's spending bill, arguing it will increase America's debt ceiling by a record $5 trillion. On his social media platform X, Musk said he's tempted to escalate the feud, but will refrain for now. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is quick to defend President Trump's budget bill after it passed the Senate, responding to criticism by Elon Musk. He said the tech billionaire should stick to rockets. He touted the importance of passing the bill as a means to secure funding for deportations.
Well, as I said earlier this morning, I think if Elon sticks to rockets, I'll stick to finance. And, I am confident that this bill is going to pay down the debt. And there were 50 senators who weren't threatened by his words. And Vice President Vance stepped in. They broke the tie in the Senate, and now we're moving into the House. And President Trump has shown incredible leadership on this, and in conjunction with Leader Thune, Speaker Johnson, I think that they're going to hold the majorities together and push this forward.
Air freight rates from the Philippines to the U.S. are seen to rise in July. That's according to a report by logistics service provider Demerco amid the ongoing Iran-Israel conflict. It says the conflict results in tightening space availability for some carriers, especially in the Middle East. Meanwhile, its freight market forecast for July shows that rates from the Philippines to other parts of Asia will remain stable with soft capacity, meaning there is more supply than demand. Monte Foods Holdings Limited Incorporated, a U.S.-based subsidiary of Del Monte Pacific Limited, kicks off efforts to pursue a sale as it filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the United States. This is under an agreement with a key lender through which it secured financing to the tune of $912.5 million to support itself through the proceedings. Del Monte also intends to remain open and continue operations throughout the bankruptcy. The company owns brands like Del Monte canned fruits and vegetables, College Inn, and tea labels. Residents of Cavite can now buy rice for 20 pesos per kilo. President Bongbong Marcos led the launch of the sale of more affordable rice at Zapote Public Market in Bacoor. He was joined by Agriculture Secretary Francisco Tiu Laurel. The Agriculture Department initially rolled out the program in the Visayas. The DA aims to sustain the initiative through June 2028, potentially reaching 15 million households. Amid concerns from farmers, President Marcos has given his assurance that farm gate prices will not be affected by the program. We're taking a short break. More business stories are up next. You're watching Business Brief. Back on Business Brief, the Securities and Exchange Commission has established a help desk at its Makati head office to handle on-site client inquiries, feedback, and complaints. It aims to facilitate public consultation and provide prompt responses to stakeholders' concerns. This is in line with the anti-red tape standards. The help desk will also have special lanes for senior citizens, pregnant women, and persons with disabilities. Australia's flag carrier is in damage control after a cyber attack hit a third-party customer service platform where data of 6 million customers are stored. But Qantas gave the assurance that the compromised system did not store passport details and financial information. The airline has coordinated with federal police and cybersecurity officials upon detecting the breach on June 30. CEO Vanessa Hudson issued a public apology and urged concerned customers to call a dedicated hotline. Qantas stocks fell 3.3% midday after the data leak disclosure. The U.S. FBI recently warned of a cybercrime group that targets airlines. CBS parent company Paramount settles a lawsuit filed by President Donald Trump. This stems from an interview aired on its 60 Minutes news program in October. Trump previously accused the program of deceptively editing an interview with Kamala Harris and misleading U.S. voters. Paramount Global agrees to pay Trump $16 million to end what it referred to as Trump's meritless lawsuit. Paramount also agrees to the release of all claims regarding any CBS reporting through the date of the settlement. The agreement comes as Paramount seeks final U.S. regulatory approval for its merger with Skydance Media. Major telecommunications companies are urging a full veto of the Konektadong Pinoy bill, warning of security, regulatory, and competition-related concerns. We have Sujin Kim in Manila with the details. Go ahead, Sujin.
Yes, Mai, a major shakeup in the Philippine telecommunications sector now hangs in the balance as the proposed Konektadong Pinoy bill awaits the signature of the president. Under the bill, companies, including foreign entities, will no longer need a congressional franchise to provide telecommunication services in the country. Instead, they will only be required to register with the National Telecommunications Commission, effectively removing the legislative gatekeeping that has governed the industry for decades.
That's very dangerous. Malign actors can embed malware and other malicious software into the system that can pollute the entire telecommunications industry.
The bill covers a wide range of services, from broadband, fixed and mobile networks to satellite connectivity, and redefines many of them as public services rather than public utilities, allowing for a more liberalized market structure. Proponents say the measure will increase competition, lower prices, and expand coverage to more than 19,000 remote barangays still unconnected to telco infrastructure. The DICT and the Philippine Competition Commission have both backed the proposal, calling it a landmark reform to modernize the industry. But the country's biggest telecom companies, including PLDT, Smart and Globe, strongly oppose the bill. These incumbent players, represented by the Philippine Chamber of Telecommunications Operators, or PCTO, warn that the measure creates a regulatory loophole, undermines national security, and puts existing licensed operators at a disadvantage. They argue that while traditional telcos are subject to congressional scrutiny, capital expenditure commitments, and strict oversight, new entrants under the bill will be able to operate with minimal requirements, potentially without local infrastructure, cybersecurity compliance, or spectrum coordination.
Medyo chapsuy na eh. Kung ano yung pwede nila ikarga, kinarga na nila talaga lahat.
One of the most contentious provisions is a 2-year grace period allowing satellite operators to delay cybersecurity implementation. Telcos warn this exposes the industry to malware, data breaches, and national security risks. Another provision would allow unrecorded, uncoordinated use of frequencies by satellite firms, which industry groups say could interfere with aviation, defense, and emergency communications. PCTO members are also raising alarm over the absence of a vetting process for new registrants. Under the current version, registration with the NTC may be approved without thorough background checks, investment commitments, or transparency standards.
It's a cute name, but it's fraught with dangers. When there's only registration, people game the system. You only require registration, unvetted.
Telcos stress they are not against competition, but they insist on a level playing field where all operators abide by the same rules, share infrastructure responsibilities, and undergo the same degree of regulatory scrutiny. Industry groups are urging the president to veto the bill in full, as a line item veto is not permitted, and return it to the Congress for revisions. Alternatively, they call for stringent implementing rules and regulations to be drafted in consultation with stakeholders.
Pag veto po ng bill, hindi po pwedeng kasi line by line eh. Kinakailangan kung sakasakali ang Pangulo ay i-veto po niya entirely yung bill. Para po naman, makasama po naman kami. Hindi kami nakonsulta. Kami naman po yung pinakatatamaan. Hindi naman kami sinali.
Specific recommendations include immediate cybersecurity compliance upon operation, spectrum coordination protocols, a vetting system for all registrants, and a prioritization framework that directs new players to truly unserved areas, not to already congested urban markets. And those are latest updates from Manila City. Back to you, Mai.
Thank you for that report, Sujin Kim. Now we're taking a short break. More business stories are up next. You're watching Business Brief. A Filipino-Swiss millionaire embroiled in a royal scandal in Britain. The Sunday Times reports Minerva Mondejar Steiner has been dropped as sponsor of the upcoming Royal Charity Polo Cup. This after she allegedly offered private meetings with Prince William and his wife Catherine for a staggering $27,000. Her team also reportedly tried to sell VIP tickets and magazine ads in exchange for donations. Event organizers are said to have cut ties with Steiner, who owns the Monte Gallery. The gallery has branches in various cities, including Sydney, Makati, and Tacloban. The world's obsession with matcha is creating a green gold rush and a supply crunch. Japanese farmers are struggling to keep up with skyrocketing demand for the powdered green tea as matcha lattes, desserts, and even skincare products go viral worldwide. In the U.S., some stores have already run out of certain variants, and shop owners fear things could get worse. President Trump's new tariffs on Japanese goods may push prices even higher, affecting cafes and exporters across the globe. Matcha, which literally means ground tea, is made from shade-grown green tea leaves, stone ground into a vibrant, bitter powder. But there's a silver lining. The matcha boom is reviving Japan's tea farms and keeping centuries-old traditions alive. In a fast-moving world, that's a brew worth savoring. Philippine shares barely moved today but slide to negative territory. The PSEi index ended lower by nearly 0.1% to close at 64.19, finishing the day as the 7th worst performer in Asia. The sectoral indices ended mixed, with property rising the most at 0.6%. However, mining and oil fall the most at more than 2%. Decliners outpaced advancers 111 to 76. Total value turnover reached 7.8 billion pesos. The day's most active stocks ended mixed, with GD Capital Holdings rising the most at more than 4% and DigiPlus falling the most at 10%. Meanwhile, at the foreign exchange market, the peso currently trading at 56.35 against the greenback, depreciating from the previous close of 56.30. Business Brief. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Join us again tomorrow as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business, only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. I'll see you then.